Great to see you guys. Thanks for being here today. We're going to talk about the environment and buildings. How do we protect the environment, guys?
When you're recycling stuff, you make sure it goes in the right bin.
Picking up stuff from the ocean, like water bottles and other stuff.
What are some ideas of how you would make a building better for the environment?
I'll put grass on the floor because it will be good for the environment. Plus, you don't have to build a floor.
I would make it like a garden with like fruits and vegetables.
Very cool. I like that idea.
You know, we do a lot of local programming aimed at kids. One of the things we want them to do is to think differently about the world. And so I really feel that the building itself can serve that educational purpose that we've tried to do for many, many years. And this will be a really important resource for us in continuing that global education work in our local community. This project, our new headquarters, is really being driven by the Living Building Challenge. That comes from the International Living Future Institute, a Seattle-based group that's trying to address the climate challenge that humanity faces today.
The mission of the International Living Future Institute is to create a future that is socially just, culturally rich, and ecologically restorative. A living future is really a vision that encompasses all sectors of society. The environmental issues that ILFI addresses are really covered in the categories of the Living Building Challenge. It's really important that all the buildings and spaces that we occupy on a day-to-day basis fight against climate change. When buildings are built to code, they're doing just basically the bare minimum for human health and safety and protecting the environment.
Buildings contribute to roughly 40% of the carbon emissions in the world, and there are many programs out there right now that try to lessen what we're taking from the world and our resources, but the Living Building Challenge is actually trying to even do better than that and give back.
The Living Building Challenge is the most advanced and holistic framework for sustainable design performance areas. It really sets the highest bar for what good looks like in architecture. The goal of having buildings like this is to have a net positive effect on the environment and for the people that occupy those spaces.
What appealed to us about the Living Building Challenge was the holistic aspect of it. It's not just a checkbox of items that you can go through and say, okay, we've met the requirements. It goes through a very thorough vetting process.
We have a big opportunity to have a positive impact on climate future with sustainable buildings.
The Living Building Challenge sounded very exciting, and if we could pull this off, and I firmly believe that we can, it's going to be monumental.
There are 7 petals in the Living Building Challenge. They are really high design aspirations and performance aspirations for what buildings should do. We have place, water, energy, materials, health and happiness, beauty, and equity. All of this sounds like a crazy idea. Luckily, we've had some great leadership in this space to show us it's not a crazy idea. It's a very practical idea, and it's what good looks like going into the future.
I don't think I had ever heard the term biophilia before we started this process, but the idea of not only being good to nature, but this idea of bringing nature into the building. Those are the kind of things that we got out of this commitment to the Living Building Challenge.
This idea of connecting everybody to nature was very important. So we used a lot of natural materials to create that sense of warmth. The doors, there's elements of plantings within those spaces too.
We were challenged by the Living Building Challenge to really find out more about the real history of this. We are not the original inhabitants of this land. You know, colonialism isn't, some historic thing. It is an ongoing process that has real impact on real people.
I spend hours and hours talking about Native American history and injustice and genocide, and some people can't hear me. But a work of art can do that.
I was really excited when the Stanley Center approached me and said, we were wondering if you would be interested in creating a sculpture for our entryway. I started talking to Dina about the project, and we are hoping to make a tree out of reclaimed materials from the library. Written on the leaves will be a conversation between Native folks and settler folks. And we would begin to kind of explore what meaningful reparations could look like.
The leaves will provide a way for the public and the Native community to interact with one another, interact with this work of art. A visitor might even get ideas about what they themselves can do. That would be my goal, is that they're moved to action.
We want this building to be good for people because we believe that's important. What would you do for a building?
I would give the people free food.
I would also have like a place where I can grow vegetables and we could give it out to the homeless people.
One of the things that we're gonna have in this building, we're gonna have a lettuce wall. It's gonna be a wall where we grow lettuce.
We'll also have a courtyard where we will be able to grow things that will then be donated to our neighbors, the Muscatine Center for Social Action, MCSA, which is a local organization devoted to people who are suffering from homelessness.
And if we have extra lettuce, we can take it over to the food pantry next door so that other people can have that fresh produce too.
There used to be an old creek bed that flowed through the site, which is actually one of the challenges that we've been working around.
The water system that we're installing is one that will capture almost all of the rainwater that comes onto our site, treat it and turn it into potable water. And the water that we can't use, we have to dispose of it.
The water is collected at the cisterns, and then it's routed through the entry, and then the basin that it channels through is shaped as a river.
We want to symbolize that same flow of that creek out to the lowest point of the site where the water will be retained before it's saturated back into the earth.
I'm very excited about the solar panels that will be on the rooftop and the canopy that's going to bridge across over to MCSA. I love things that solve multiple problems or address multiple issues, and that canopy, I think, is a really amazing example of that, because not only is it extending the footprint of our rooftop so that we can have more solar generation to offset our energy use, but it also is providing shade and shelter to people.
The materials petal is challenging for us. It's sometimes difficult to find products that don't include any of what's called the red list.
The red list has been really profound for architects and designers that are specifying these materials because it tells us which chemicals we should be watching out for and screening out of our specification process to make sure that we're not accidentally introducing really toxic chemicals into these spaces.
When you think about office furniture, environmentally, what's in your materiality that we know is not good? We continually are pushing ourselves, and the Stanley team's helping us to say, how do I get the red list items out? And then where's that line where I'm actually causing more good than bad?
In the materials petal, we have to do as much local sourcing as possible.
Anytime that you can choose a material that's sourced locally, you're going to reduce the carbon footprint. Climate change is greatly impacted by waste and materials. And that's one of the challenges with this Living Building Challenge, is to source things as close to Muscatine as you possibly can.
I'm really glad that New in Monson put a high value on biophilia to reflect not just plants, but also sort of natural forms, natural surfaces, all of those kind of things that create comfort and warmth and a sense of security and a sense of beauty.
It's not just about the buildings, but it's also about the people and, the water systems and beauty itself, too.
We are planning a beautiful tree that as you walk into the building, it draws your eye and invites you in.
There's so much that art can convey. A work that invokes maybe some compassion and also a historic message about genocide will just really kind of hook someone on an emotional level. I hope that the tree has that impact.
The Living Building Challenge is for sure a challenge. That's why it has that in its name. So there's no doubt about that, but it is absolutely worth it.
We are extremely privileged to have the resources to invest in this type of project. And I think that we're leveraging that privilege in a really powerful way to hopefully create change that extends not just beyond the walls of this building and this city, but also much further.
The building is such a learning tool for everybody, for us, for the occupants, for the community.
Renovating a building that had been used for learning and education for all those years is meaningful to us. I think it's really just a win-win for us and for the community.
When you take on the Living Building Challenge, you're helping others follow in your footsteps and make it a little bit easier for that next project team that wants to take this on.
When you learn that much about something and it kind of hits your core and you see it implemented so much like you do with the Stanley Center and their mission, it can't help but change you.
This feels like the confluence of so many different pieces of the Stanley Center's mission and goals, and seeing that in reality, I think will be really amazing.
So, do you want to come visit this building when we get done?
Yes. Yes. Yes.